Multiple rounds of severe weather are about to unload across this country, and the target zone runs from the Central Plains all the way into the Great Lakes. A low-level jet fuels scattered thunderstorms over the next few days, damaging winds, large hail, a couple of tornadoes. That is layer 1. Layer 2 is worse. A frontal boundary stalls out completely as the week goes on, which means storms track over the same ground again and again, and that raises the flash flooding threat across the Ohio Valley and the Appalachians. Layer 3, a heat wave holds across the west before expanding east into the Central Plains and the southeast. This is the most active pattern we have had in weeks, and the ceiling on the next few days is high. Let's get into it, because there are big updates today and they change depending on where you live. Start with today, Saturday. The Storm Prediction Center has 3 marginal threats drawn up. The first covers Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. It's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Damaging wind gusts are possible there this afternoon. Nothing long-tracked. Just a storm that goes up fast, collapses, and puts down a burst of wind strong enough to bring branches and power lines with it. The much larger risk area runs from Minneapolis all the way back into northern Kansas, near Goodland. That is a huge footprint. Damaging wind gusts and isolated hail are both on the table inside it. And then the third piece sits out in Arizona. Wind and hail are the main concerns across all 3 of those zones today. The tornado risk is very low. I want that clear, because today is the opening act. Take a second look at that Minneapolis to Goodland zone, though. That risk area covers a lot of ground, and a lot of you live under it. That does not mean everybody in it gets hit. It means the environment supports storms somewhere inside those lines, and where they set up is a detail we will not know until they are already going. Same idea in Arizona. That part of the country has been firing storms for a while now, and today just adds another round to the pile. Do not check out just because tornadoes are off the table. Damaging wind does enormous property damage every year in this country and almost never makes headlines. A wind-driven storm still puts a tree through a roof. Large hail still cracks a windshield in 90 seconds. If you are in one of those 3 areas today, keep your phone close and bring anything loose in off the deck before the afternoon. Tomorrow is when this gets worse. And honestly, it looks a lot more concerning as we head into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Here is Sunday. The Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk stretching from northern Indiana into eastern Iowa and southern Wisconsin. That includes Chicago. There is a marginal threat just south of Detroit reaching back into parts of northern Kentucky, and most of South Dakota is in it too. All hazards are possible. Damaging wind gusts are the main risk. Isolated large hail is on the table, mainly centered over South Dakota, and there is a risk of a few tornadoes. Right now, the Storm Prediction Center has a large 2% tornado risk in place. 2% sounds small. Here is why I'm not brushing it off. If storms fire in this environment, there's going to be a lot of wind shear available to them. There could easily be 1 or 2 tornadoes out of this, and I would not rule out a strong tornado in this environment. That is not a forecast of one. That is the ingredients supporting one. The difference matters when you are deciding how closely to watch. So Sunday is a high alert day if you live in southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Indiana, eastern Iowa, or southwestern Michigan. That is your zone. Know where your safe place is. Turn your phone alerts on. Do not count on hearing a siren, because most of you will not hear one from inside your house. And do it Saturday night, not Sunday afternoon. Charge your phone. Put shoes and a flashlight by wherever you would shelter. Figure out now which room you go to, because deciding that under a warning with 2 minutes on the clock is how people end up standing in a hallway arguing about it. 5 minutes of prep tonight buys you every one of those minutes back tomorrow. Monday, the threat shifts south and east. Another slight risk sets up from northern Illinois into western Pennsylvania. All hazards again, damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a few tornadoes. Both line segments and discrete supercells are in play, and those two behave very differently. We will get to that. There's also a large level 1 out of 5 marginal threat running from eastern Pennsylvania into Wyoming and Montana, where we are mainly watching for isolated severe storms Monday afternoon and evening. Stay weather aware there, but that is not a day to cancel plans. Tuesday likely sets up as well across the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic. So this is not one bad day. It is a stretch of days where the same part of the country keeps getting worked over. Different threat each day, same general real estate. That is what makes this different from a normal mid-August week. And it is why the flooding side of this gets more dangerous the longer the pattern holds together. Now the timing, day by day. Start with today. Honestly, today is not going to be anything unusual. Isolated severe weather across parts of the Northeast. A few thunderstorms fired during the afternoon. Damaging wind gusts, the concern. If you're outside near Philadelphia, Washington, or Allentown, watch the sky and be ready to move indoors fast. Hit or miss setup. The Northern Plains and Central Plains are a different story, and this is the part people get wrong. There's a giant risk area drawn from Minneapolis back into Goodland, and you would assume storms fire in the afternoon heat like they usually do. Not tonight. I do not think we see much of anything during daylight hours. Everything probably happens after 10 o'clock, and I think almost all of it happens after midnight. Storms should begin firing near Aberdeen and north of Watertown by 3 to 4 in the morning. Look at that timestamp. 4 in the morning, and storms are getting going with large hail and damaging wind gusts as the main concerns. That timing is the entire story tonight. You go to bed with a quiet sky. The storms show up while you are asleep. That is exactly how people miss warnings. If you're anywhere near Aberdeen or Watertown, turn your phone volume up tonight. Do not put it on silent. That one decision is the difference between getting a warning and sleeping through it. There's also a conditional risk of a couple of storms firing between Sioux Falls and Kearney. Conditional means the ingredients are there, but something has to pull the trigger. If nothing does, you wake up to nothing. Generally speaking, tonight is an isolated risk, not a widespread one. By Sunday morning, that leftover overnight activity leads to a widespread area of showers and thunderstorms across Wisconsin and Illinois. This is the critical part. That storm activity is going to decide how our severe weather unfolds on Sunday. What happens at 4 in the morning in South Dakota helps determine what happens Sunday evening near Chicago. That is why the overnight round matters, even though most of you will sleep through it. Into Sunday now. Showers and thunderstorms continue through late morning and early afternoon with isolated wind and isolated hail on the table. That activity starts from Wausau and moves toward Grand Rapids during the early afternoon. The thing to watch is where a boundary sets up during the afternoon. That comes down to exactly where those showers and thunderstorms go. Push further south, and the severe weather ends up further south than our current target area. Stay north, and the target moves north with it. I know that sounds vague. It is supposed to. A boundary is where the atmosphere hands, storms their focus, and until it actually lays down somewhere, drawing a hard line on a map is guessing. So watch the morning activity tomorrow. Where it clears out and the sun comes back, that is where the atmosphere recharges. That is your answer, and you will get it hours before the first warning goes out. Now, look at the significant tornado parameter values, because they climb quite a bit during the afternoon and evening. By 10 o'clock, we have some of the highest values we have seen in a while across the Midwest, 5 to 7, currently forecast by the HRR, with a really large amount of instability also in place. Those are not numbers I show you often in August. That much shear and that much instability overlapping in the same place means the atmosphere is capable of a serious storm. Capable is the word. I'm going to keep being straight with you about the gap between capable and certain. Because the big question mark is how these storms actually evolve across the Midwest and the Great Lakes on Sunday. Here's what late afternoon looks like. Showers and thunderstorms keep pushing east by 5 o'clock into Michigan and northern Indiana. But how many storms we get during the morning and early afternoon determines whether we even see storms fire near Chicago at all. Morning storms eat the fuel evening storms need. That is the tug of war. The HRR fires storms around 6 to 8 o'clock in southern Wisconsin, near Madison, Janesville, and Milwaukee. Those storms likely upscale very quickly into a line. If that happens, the significant tornado threat is limited, because a line spreads the energy out instead of concentrating it in one rotating storm. But if we get a discrete supercell anywhere in this environment, there could easily be a strong and even significant tornado threat. That is the fork in the road, and it is the thing to watch Sunday afternoon and evening. Storm mode is why 2 days with similar ingredients can look nothing alike. Isolated storms get the atmosphere to themselves, and with this much shear, rotation has room to organize. Crowded storms merge into a line and compete for the same inflow, and you end up with a long, fast wind threat instead. Neither one is safe. They just ask different things of you, and right now, nobody can tell you which one you are getting. If you have not subscribed yet, do it now. There is a chance of a live stream tomorrow, so hit the bell icon too, so you're notified if and when we go live. When a setup has this much uncertainty in it, being able to reach you in real time actually matters. Now, the HRR is one model out of many, and it develops a line rather than a single supercell. Do not read that as the safe outcome. A line can be equally dangerous. In that scenario, you get a widespread damaging wind threat near Chicago during the evening, and it keeps going into Kalamazoo and South Bend. Widespread damaging wind across a metro the size of Chicago is not a lesser outcome. It is a different one, and it hits far more people at once. Other models disagree. The RRFS puts most of the storm activity much further north, with supercells in eastern Wisconsin during the afternoon before a line develops in the evening. And here is the keynote. The RRFS has the highest tornado threat about 100 miles further north than the HRR does. 100 miles is the difference between a quiet evening and a dangerous one, depending on which side of that line your town sits on. So there is real uncertainty here, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. These events are tricky to forecast. This one comes down to exactly what happens tonight and early tomorrow morning. That is why I'm giving you an alert zone instead of a single town. Stay subscribed. We will have a new update tomorrow morning with any major changes, and in a setup like this, the changes can be significant. Monday is even trickier because it rides entirely on what happens Sunday. Here's where we stand. The RRFS has a line or cluster of thunderstorms moving across Michigan and Lake Erie during the early morning hours Monday. That weakens out. Then it develops a brand new round of thunderstorms during the mid-afternoon near Cleveland and just south of Erie. Depending on where that sets up, it probably leads to a pretty significant damaging wind threat. There may even be a few supercells in there, which brings a tornado risk with them. But look at the significant tornado parameter values for Monday. Right now they run around 0 to 1 with a couple of spots, maybe slightly higher. That usually means a low-end tornado threat with any discrete supercells that develop. That is a real step down from Sunday evening. And I want you to hear that clearly instead of assuming every day this week carries the same tornado risk. Monday is predominantly a scattered to numerous damaging wind threat, with some isolated hail on the table. If you live from northern Illinois across to western Pennsylvania, have a plan before Monday afternoon shows up. Know where you will be. Know if that building has a lower level. Know how a warning reaches you when you are away from a television. Most people who get caught are not caught because they did not know a risk existed. They get caught because it arrived while they were driving or working outside or halfway through something they did not want to stop. But my bigger concern about Monday is not wind. Wherever these storms set up, they are probably going to train from west to east. Training means storm after storm rolling over the exact same ground like cars on a track. That produces repeated rounds of rainfall in the same areas. And that could lead to a pretty significant flash flooding risk across areas like Ohio and even Pennsylvania. That concern may continue well into Tuesday and Wednesday as severe weather keeps hitting the same areas across the Ohio Valley and Midwest. So let's talk flooding, because this is the piece most people are underestimating. Between now and Monday night, most of the flooding rainfall should fall from Wisconsin back through Michigan and into Ohio. And here is the interesting trend. The RFS has a lot of rain falling in parts of Ohio. There could be a localized area or two that pushes over a foot of rain, depending on how all these showers and thunderstorms line up. Now let me balance that immediately, because a foot of rain is a headline number and it deserves context. Other models, like the NAM, show basically nothing happening in that area. That is a massive spread between two solutions. It tells you there is a lot of uncertainty about how much rain we actually see. I'm not telling you a foot of rain is coming to your town. I'm telling you the possibility exists in a localized area, and that another model shows nothing at all. But this much is safe to say. If you live in Ohio, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, or southern Wisconsin, and you are in a low-lying area, or you have travel plans over the next few days, stay aware. Not just for severe weather. For flash flooding is the one that catches people off guard. It does not announce itself with a wall cloud or a wind gust. It builds quietly over hours, while storm after storm passes overhead, and by the time water is moving across a road, it is too late to be casual about it. If you come up on a flooded roadway this week, turn around. That is the whole safety message, and it has never needed to be more complicated than that. And know your own ground before Monday. If your street holds water in an ordinary summer downpour, it will hold a lot more when storms train over you for hours. If your basement takes water, move what matters up off the floor now, while it is dry and easy. If your commute crosses a low spot or a creek, pick your backup route today. None of that costs you anything if the rain never shows up. After Tuesday, the severe risk gets a lot more uncertain. We do not know exactly what happens beyond that right now. The GFS has been hinting at least one or two more shortwave troughs moving across the Great Plains into the Midwest by Wednesday and Thursday. That could mean more rounds of severe weather. But it is very uncertain, and I would rather say that than manufacture confidence I do not have. Keep the calendar in mind too. We are heading toward the middle of August, and widespread severe weather events are a lot less likely this time of year. They are usually more localized. Yesterday in Iowa is a perfect example. We ended up with a couple of confirmed tornadoes in northeast Iowa, plus some really significant wind. Very localized in general. That is what August does. It does not stamp a giant outbreak across 5 states. It picks a small area and hits it hard while the county next door barely gets thunder. Which is exactly why a low tornado percentage does not mean you relax. Localized does not mean minor. If you're the town that gets hit, the fact that the risk area was small is no comfort at all. Iowa found that out yesterday. So the play here is not to panic over the next few days. It is to stay reachable, keep the forecast in front of you, and be ready to act fast in a narrow window. We are watching around the middle of August for maybe some kind of subsynoptic feature, like a low-pressure system, to move across the Midwest. That could bring a more numerous severe threat. But for now, it looks pretty spotty, and I do not foresee any major outbreak of severe weather anytime soon. That said, watch these next few days because any of them could have a high ceiling. We could easily see a significant tornado threat Sunday or Monday. We could just end up with a major wind threat instead, Or we might not get much of anything at all. It is a genuinely unpredictable setup, because these threats are driven by mesoscale features, and sometimes you do not know how significant an event is going to be until the day of. That is not a cop-out. That is the honest limitation of the science, and the right response is to stay plugged in, not tune out. Longer term, still a lot of rain and a lot of thunderstorms across the same part of the country. That matters more for flooding than for severe weather, because ground that has already taken repeated rounds handles the next one far worse than dry ground does. Every storm that tracks over the same counties raises the stakes further, and that is the trend I will be watching hardest this week. Quick word on the tropics, because a lot of you have been asking about them lately, and it is worth 30 seconds. Right now, I am not seeing much tropical activity for at least the next 5 days. We may be watching a couple of tropical waves soon in the eastern Atlantic, and those could cause problems down the line, but most of the deterministic models have a lot of wind shear in place. Shear is the enemy of tropical development. As long as it stays where the models show it, those waves are going to struggle to organize. So the tropics look quiet for now. That might change around the middle of August. If you live along the coast, this is your quiet window. And a quiet window is exactly when you should be checking your plan, instead of waiting for something to get a name. Now, temperatures, and there should be no surprises here for most of you. But if you live in the central or southern plains, get ready. It is about to get really hot as we head into Sunday. High temperatures near 115 in central Kansas. Kansas City comes in at 100. Monday is no better, and that heat is not staying put. It has been sitting over the west, and this week it expands east into the central plains and the southeast. So, if you have been watching this heat wave from a distance and thinking it was somebody else's problem, that changes over the next several days. Take that seriously. Heat in that range is not an uncomfortable afternoon. It is the kind of heat where shade does not help much, and the evening does not cool off fast enough to give your body a break. If you work outside in central Kansas or anywhere in that corridor, front load your day. Drink water before you're thirsty. Check on the older people around you and anyone who lives alone. Check on your animals. Heat is one of the biggest weather killers in this country, and it does its damage quietly. Over in the Great Lakes, it is the opposite. Really nice weather, and that is because of all the showers and thunderstorms in those areas. High temperatures might only top out in the upper 70s in some locations. Strange split to describe in one forecast, but that is the pattern. One half of the country is dodging storms, the other half is dodging heat. A cold front should push across most of the Midwest on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that cools things down nicely. It likely brings low temperatures back into the 40s and 50s by as early as Thursday or Friday over in Minnesota. Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. Good news if you like cooler weather, and after the week, those areas are about to have a few cool mornings are earned. Otherwise, it stays hot, especially in Texas and Oklahoma, right through the end of the week. No relief anytime soon in those areas, and no rain in sight right now for most of Texas. That is a tough thing to keep repeating week after week, but I am not going to invent relief the data does not support. So here is where I will leave you today. Short and simple. Tonight, the northern plains get storms after midnight, and most of you will be asleep for it. Sunday is the high alert day from eastern Iowa across southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, Indiana, and southwestern Michigan. Monday shifts the threat toward northern Illinois into western Pennsylvania, and flash flooding becomes the growing concern across Ohio and Pennsylvania. And the heat keeps building in the plains. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new here, subscribe down below so you do not miss the next update. Also, check out our 24/7 live weather stream with live cameras, live weather alerts, and great music running around the clock. We are about to release a brand new 24/7 stream very soon, completely revamped and even better than what is up now, so stay tuned for that. We will see you in the next video or live stream.